r/AITA grandma used me as free childcare then begged me to come back. You need to watch the kids today, I have book club. I looked up from my calculus textbook, my stomach dropping as I saw Grandma Janet grabbing her purse and keys. Through the living room window, I could see my aunt's minivan pulling away from the curb. She'd done another drive-by kid dump. Grandma, I have my statistics exam in 2 hours, I said, trying to keep my voice calm even though my heart was racing. I've been studying for this all week. She waved me off like I was swatting at air. You're young, you can retake tests. These babies need someone responsible watching them. The babies in question, my cousins Marcus, 8, Lily, 6, and Emma, 4, were already tearing through the house like tiny tornadoes. I could hear something crash in the kitchen, followed by Emma's guilty giggling. I can't miss this exam. It's worth 40% of my grade, and I'm already behind because... Because what? Because you helped family when they needed you. Grandma's voice had that sharp edge that meant the guilt trip was coming. After everything I've done for you, taking you in when your parents were too busy destroying each other to care about their own child, this is how you repay me? There it was. The same manipulation that had been working on me for the past 6 months, ever since I'd moved in after Mom and Dad's divorce turned nuclear. I'd been so grateful when Grandma offered me her spare room while I attended community college. Free rent, home-cooked meals, and the woman who bandaged my scraped knees and taught me to drive was going to help me get my life together. Instead, I'd become the world's most convenient babysitter. Grandma, please. I can watch them after my exam. It's just 2 hours. Uncle Tommy. Marcus came barreling into the room, chocolate smeared across his face, with Lily chasing after him wielding a wooden spoon like a weapon. They collided into the coffee table, sending my textbooks and notes flying. That's it. Lily shrieked. You ate my chocolate rabbit. It was in the fridge. Finders keepers. Grandma Janet, make him give it back. Emma toddled in behind them, somehow covered head to toe in what looked like flour, leaving white footprints across the carpet. I made cookies, she announced proudly. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, watching my study materials scattered across the floor. This was my life now. 6 months ago, I'd been on track to transfer to a 4-year university. I'd had a part-time job at the campus bookstore, decent grades, and actual friends who weren't asking me to change their diapers or referee their fights over chocolate. Now. I'd already missed so many shifts that my boss had let me go. My GPA had dropped from a 3.4 to barely scraping by with a 2.1. And my social life consisted of watching Disney movies and mediating arguments about who got the last juice box. See? Grandma said, stepping over the chaos like it was perfectly normal. They need you. I'll be back by dinner. The door slammed behind her before I could say another word, leaving me standing in the wreckage of what was supposed to be my future, surrounded by 3 kids who weren't my responsibility but had somehow become my entire world. I looked at the clock, 1:47 p.m. My exam started at 3:30. That was the moment I realized I had to make a choice. I grabbed my phone and called my professor, Dr. Martinez, while Emma continued her flower art project on the living room carpet and the older kids screamed about chocolate injustice. Dr. Martinez. This is Sam Chen from your Statistics 201 class. I know this is last minute, but I have a family emergency and... Ms. Chen, his voice was tired, disappointed. This is the 3rd exam accommodation you've requested this semester. My face burned with embarrassment. I know it looks bad, but... I've been teaching for 15 years. I understand that life happens, but at some point, you need to prioritize your education. This exam cannot be rescheduled again. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Uncle Tommy, Emma put flour in the fish tank. Marcus announced helpfully. I rushed to the kitchen to find our goldfish, Mr. Bubbles, swimming frantically in cloudy white water. Emma was dragging a chair toward the counter, clearly planning her next culinary adventure. No, sweetie, we don't cook the fish, I said, scooping her up while trying to figure out how to save Mr. Bubbles with one hand. By the time I'd changed the fish water, cleaned flour out of Emma's hair, and negotiated a peace treaty over the chocolate rabbit, involving complex juice box bribes, it was 4:15 p.m. My exam had started 45 minutes ago. I sat on the couch, surrounded by the aftermath of our impromptu crisis management, and felt something break inside me. Not dramatically, just a quiet snap, like a rubber band that had been stretched too far for too long. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Maya, *girl, where are you? Thought we were meeting to work on our transfer applications today. The deadline for state is next week. Transfer applications. I'd completely forgotten. The deadline for the university I'd been dreaming of attending, where I could study engineering and actually have a future, was in 6 days. I hadn't even started my personal essay. Another text popped up, this one from my mom, how's school going, honey? Your dad and I are proud of you for staying focused during all this family chaos. I almost laughed. Focused. If only they knew I was currently Googling, is flour toxic to goldfish, while their grandchildren use their mother's dining room as a playground. I'm hungry, Lily announced, as if summoned by the mention of chaos. Me too. Marcus chimed in. Me free. Emma added, because she was still working on numbers. I looked in the fridge. Empty except for condiments and something that might have been lasagna 3 weeks ago. Grandma had been so busy with her book clubs, garden society meetings, and whatever else filled her social calendar that grocery shopping had become my job too. Along with laundry, dishes, and apparently, fish tank maintenance. My bank account had $47 in it. My next financial aid disbursement wouldn't come for 3 weeks, and that was assuming I stayed enrolled. With my current GPA, I was dangerously close to academic probation. I was 19 years old, and somehow I'd become a single parent to 3 kids while watching my own life disappear piece by piece. The front door opened around 6 p.m., and I heard Grandma's cheerful voice, I'm home. How were my angels? I looked around at the disaster zone that was her house, then at the kids who were finally calm and watching cartoons, then at my scattered textbooks and the exam I'd never taken. Just fine, Grandma, I called back, my voice eerily steady. Everything's just fine. But as I said it, I was already making plans. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the doorbell ringing at 7:23 a.m. Through my bedroom window, I could see my cousin Derek's beat-up Honda in the driveway, which meant only one thing, another emergency babysitting situation. I pulled on yesterday's clothes and stumbled downstairs to find Grandma already letting in Derek's two kids, Sophie, 5, and baby Tyler, 18 months. Derek looked like he'd been up all night, his work uniform wrinkled and coffee-stained. "I'm sorry, Grandma Janet, I know it's early, but my shift supervisor called in sick and they need me to pull a double." Sarah's mom was supposed to watch them, but she came down with the flu and... "Of course, honey," Grandma said, taking Tyler from his arms. "Family helps family. Sam will take good care of them." I felt my eye twitch. Sam will take good care of them, not, let me check with Sam, or, if Sam's available. Just the automatic assumption that I had nothing better to do than watch 5 kids under the age of 8. "Actually," I said, stepping into the conversation, "I have my makeup exam today at 2 p.m. Professor Martinez is giving me one last chance, and if I miss this one..." "A makeup exam?" Derek looked confused. "What happened to the original one?" The silence was deafening. Grandma suddenly became very interested in adjusting Tyler's outfit, while I stood there feeling like I was on trial. "I had to miss it," I said quietly. "Because I was watching Marcus, Lily, and Emma." Derek's face changed. "Oh. Oh shit, Sam, I didn't know. I thought you were doing this because you wanted to help out, not because..." He glanced at Grandma, who was now bouncing Tyler and humming like she couldn't hear us. "It's fine," I lied. "I can figure something out." But Derek was already shaking his head. "No, this isn't right. Mom, you can't keep dumping the kids on Sam like this. She's got school, and..." "Dumping?" Grandma's voice went ice cold. "Is that what we're calling family support now? When Sam needed a place to live, did I dump her on someone else? When her parents were too selfish to think about what their fighting was doing to their daughter, who opened their home?" The guilt bomb landed perfectly. Derek's shoulders sagged. "That's not what I meant, Mom. I just think maybe we should ask before." "Before what?" "Before trusting family to be there for each other." She shifted Tyler to her other hip, and I could see the manipulation machine warming up. "Sam, honey, I was going to tell you, Mrs. Patterson from next door mentioned there might be an opening at her son's accounting firm. Entry level, but good benefits. You could start building a real career instead of wasting time on classes that aren't even guaranteed to lead anywhere." My blood pressure spiked. "Wasting time? Grandma, I'm trying to get my degree so I can transfer to engineering school." "Engineering?" She laughed, actually laughed. "Sweetheart, that's a man's field. And so competitive. Wouldn't you rather have job security? Mrs. Patterson's son started in the mailroom and now he's a regional manager." "I don't want to be a regional manager. I want to be an engineer." "Well, sometimes we have to adjust our dreams to fit reality," she said with that condescending smile that made my skin crawl. "And reality is that this family needs you right now." Derek looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Sophie was tugging on his pant leg, asking why everyone was using their angry voices, and baby Tyler had started to fuss. "I have to get to work," Derek mumbled. "Sam, I'm really sorry. I'll try to find other arrangements next time." He kissed Sophie goodbye and practically ran out the door, leaving me with 5 kids and a grandmother who thought my engineering dreams were cute but unrealistic. "Well," Grandma said brightly, as if we hadn't just had a fight about my entire future, "I'm meeting the book club for brunch at 10. There's cereal for the kids, and I think there are some hot dogs in the freezer." I watched her walk upstairs to get ready, Tyler still in her arms, and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't going to stop. It was never going to stop unless I made it stop. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Maya's contact. My finger hovered over the call button for a long moment before I finally pressed it. "Maya. It's Sam. That thing you mentioned about needing a third roommate, is that offer still open?" Maya's voice was cautious when she answered. "Sam. Everything okay? You sound weird." I glanced toward the stairs where I could hear Grandma getting ready, then at the 5 kids scattered around the living room. Sophie was trying to feed Cheerios to a very patient Mr. Bubbles, while Marcus and Lily had built a fort out of couch cushions that was definitely going to collapse on Emma and Tyler any second. "The roommate thing," I said quietly. "Are you serious about needing someone?" "Dead serious. Jess and I have been looking for weeks, but everyone's either a creep or wants to pay like $50 a month and eat all our food." She paused. "Wait, are you thinking about moving out of your grandma's?" Before I could answer, there was a crash from the living room. The cushion fort had indeed collapsed, and now Tyler was crying while Emma patted his head saying, "It's okay, baby, it's okay." "I can't do this anymore, Maya," I whispered into the phone. "I'm drowning here." "Okay, breathe. Can you meet me for coffee later? We can talk about details." "I can't. I'm watching 5 kids until God knows when, and I already missed my makeup exam yesterday, and..." "5 kids? Sam, what the hell?" I gave her the abbreviated version while trying to prevent Sophie from turning the fish tank into a cereal bowl. By the time I finished, Maya was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. That's not okay, Sam. Like, at all. When can you get out of there?" "I don't know. I don't have first month's rent saved up, and my financial aid money is tied up in tuition, and..." "We'll figure it out. Jess's dad owns the place, so he's flexible on deposits. Can you come look at the room this weekend?" I felt a tiny spark of hope, quickly followed by crushing guilt. "Maya, I can't just abandon my grandma. She raised me when my parents were too messed up to function. And she's getting older, and these kids are a lot of work." "Sam." Maya's voice was firm. "Listen to what you just said. She raised you. Past tense. You don't owe her your entire future because she did what family is supposed to do." Through the phone, I could hear her moving around, probably getting ready for her own classes she could actually attend because she wasn't trapped in an unpaid childcare nightmare. "Think about it," she continued. And text me later, okay? Even if it's just a vent. After we hung up, I sat on the kitchen floor and watched the chaos in the living room. Tyler had stopped crying and was now trying to eat one of the couch cushions. Emma was teaching Sophie a song that seemed to consist entirely of the word banana, repeated at increasing volumes. Marcus and Lily were arguing about whether fish could understand English. It was almost normal. Domestic. Like this could actually be my life. The thought terrified me. At 10:15, Grandma came downstairs looking like she was headed to a magazine photo shoot, not brunch with her book club friends. She'd somehow managed to get Tyler dressed in a clean outfit and looking presentable. I should be back by 2, she said, checking her lipstick in the hallway mirror. Derek said he'd pick up Sophie and Tyler around 4, and your aunt is getting the other 3 at 6. Grandma, what if I can't do this anymore? She stopped adjusting her earrings and looked at me with genuine confusion. Can't do what, honey? This. The babysitting. I need to focus on school. For a moment, something flickered across her face, panic, maybe, or fear. But it was gone so quickly I almost missed it. Oh, sweetie, she said, her voice dripping with gentle condescension. You're just stressed. Once you get into a routine, it'll be easier. And think about how much you're learning about responsibility and time management. Those are real-world skills. But my grades. We'll be fine. You're smart. You'll figure it out. She kissed my forehead like I was Emma's age. I have to run, the girls are waiting. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving me alone with 5 kids and a slowly dawning realization that she had no intention of ever letting me go. The next 3 days were a blur of missed classes, emergency diaper changes, and increasingly frantic texts from professors. I'd managed to salvage my makeup exam situation with Dr. Martinez, only to miss 2 assignments in my English comp class because Emma had somehow gotten into the bathroom cabinet and decided to give herself a makeover with an entire tube of toothpaste. By Thursday morning, I was running on 4 hours of sleep and pure spite when my phone rang. Maya's name flashed on the screen. Please tell me you have good news, I answered, bouncing Tyler on my hip while trying to prevent Marcus from using permanent markers on the coffee table. Better than good. Jess talked to her dad, and he said if you can move in this weekend, he'll waive the deposit and let you pay first month's rent in 2 installments. Maya's voice was excited, but cautious. Sam, this is your chance. I felt my chest tighten with a mixture of hope and terror. This weekend? That's really soon. Marcus, those are not coloring markers. I called out, lunging to grab the Sharpie from his hand. Are you watching Kids right now? Maya asked. When am I not watching Kids? I laughed, but it came out bitter. Aunt Kelly had a spa emergency this morning, so here we are. A spa emergency? Apparently her massage therapist had a last-minute opening. I caught Emma trying to climb the bookshelf and redirected her toward her coloring books. Maya, I want to say yes, but I don't know how to tell my grandma. She's been so good to me, Anne. Has she, though? Maya's voice was gentle but firm. I mean, really think about it, Sam. Is taking care of you the same thing as being good to you? Before I could answer, I heard Grandma's key in the front door. She walked in carrying shopping bags from 3 different stores, humming contentedly. I have to go, I whispered to Maya. I'll call you tonight. Sam, the room won't wait forever. Jess's dad has other people interested. I know. I just need to. Grandma. Marcus abandoned his art project and ran toward her. Sam wouldn't let me draw on the table. Well, of course not, sweetie, Grandma said, setting down her bags and ruffling his hair. Tables are for eating, not drawing. She looked at me with mild disapproval. Did you give them lunch? I gestured toward the kitchen where evidence of our peanut butter and jelly assembly line was still scattered across the counter. An hour ago. She started unpacking her bags, new throw pillows, a decorative candle, some sort of fancy tea blend. Oh, I ran into Mrs. Chen from your old high school at the mall. She said her daughter Jenny just finished her associate's degree and got a lovely job at the bank. Full benefits, 2 weeks paid vacation. I felt my jaw clench. Mrs. Chen's daughter Jenny had wanted to be a veterinarian since we were in 3rd grade together. That's nice for Jenny, I managed. It is. Very practical. Grandma arranged her new pillows on the couch, stepping over Tyler who was crawling in circles around the coffee table. Mrs. Chen mentioned how proud she was that Jenny chose stability over those risky 4-year degrees that cost so much money. The implication hung in the air like smoke. I watched her fuss with the pillows, transforming the living room back into her perfect showcase, erasing all evidence that 5 children had spent the day here. Grandma, can we talk about? Oh. Before I forget. She pulled a flyer from one of her bags. Mrs. Patterson's son's firm is having an open house next week for potential employees. Very casual, just a chance to see if you'd be a good fit. I stared at the glossy brochure advertising careers in accounting. There was a photo of a woman about my age sitting at a desk, smiling at a computer screen like it was the most fulfilling thing she'd ever seen. I didn't agree to. It's just a visit, honey. No commitment. Grandma's smile was bright and encouraging and somehow terrifying. Though Mrs. Patterson did mention they're especially interested in hiring young women with strong organizational skills and experience managing multiple responsibilities. Multiple responsibilities? Well, look how beautifully you've learned to juggle everything here. That's exactly the kind of skill set they're looking for. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She wasn't just stealing my time, she was rebranding my trap situation as job training. My phone buzzed with a text. Maya, serious question, when's the last time you did something just because you wanted to do it? I looked around the living room. At the kids who weren't mine, in a house that wasn't really mine, holding a career brochure for a future I'd never chosen. When was the last time I'd done something for myself? I couldn't remember. The open house is Tuesday at 2 p.m., Grandma continued, completely oblivious to my internal crisis. I told Mrs. Patterson you'd be there. You told her I'd be there. Without asking me. Sweetheart, sometimes opportunities don't wait for us to be ready. Sometimes the people who love us have to give us a little push toward what's best for us. That's when I realized she didn't see me as a person with my own dreams and goals. I was a problem she'd solved by turning me into the solution for everyone else's problems. My phone buzzed again. Maya, room still available. Just say the word. I looked at my grandmother, arranging her perfect living room in her perfect house, planning my perfect little life of giving up everything I'd ever wanted. For the first time in months, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I typed back to Maya, I want to see the room. Her response came immediately, yes. Can you come Saturday morning? Like 10 a.m. Saturday. That was 2 days away. I could make it work. Grandma usually went to her garden club meetings on Saturday mornings, and for once, no kids were scheduled to be dropped off. Perfect. Send me the address. I was about to put my phone away when it rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen, which was weird because he usually just dropped the kids off without much conversation. Hey, Derek, what's up? Sam, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. His voice sounded strained. Are you okay with watching Sophie and Tyler all the time? Because Sarah's been giving me hell about how much we're asking of you, and I'm starting to think she's right. I glanced toward the kitchen where Grandma was making her afternoon tea, probably listening to every word. It's a lot sometimes, I said carefully. That's what I was afraid of. Look, Sarah's mom is feeling better, and her sister just moved back to town. We've got other options now. I don't want you to feel like you have to say yes every time we need help. Relief flooded through me so fast I almost cried. Derek, that would be amazing. I mean, I love Sophie and Tyler, but you're 19 and trying to go to school. I get it. He paused. Has anyone else in the family said anything? Like, about finding other arrangements? My heart sank. Not exactly. Shit. Sam, how many kids are you watching on a regular basis? Before I could answer, Grandma appeared in the doorway with her perfectly arranged tea service, smiling that sweet smile that meant she wanted to know exactly what I was talking about. Just family, I said into the phone, which was technically true but felt like a lie. Derek was quiet for a moment. You know what? I'm going to make some calls. This isn't fair to you. After we hung up, Grandma settled into her chair with her tea, looking innocent as a lamb. Derek's finding other arrangements for Sophie and Tyler, I said, testing the waters. Oh, that's nice for him. Her voice was carefully neutral. Though I hope he realizes how lucky he was to have someone so reliable and loving watching them. Not everyone can find that kind of quality care. There it was again, the subtle implication that I was somehow irreplaceable, that the family would fall apart without my sacrifice. Grandma, what if I wanted to cut back on babysitting? Focus more on school. She took a delicate sip of her tea. Well, of course, honey. School is important. Another sip. Though I'd hate to see you become one of those selfish young people who forget where they came from. My chest tightened. Wanting to go to class isn't selfish. Of course not. But there's a balance, isn't there? Between personal ambition and family responsibility. She smiled at me over her teacup. I've always been so proud of how mature you are, how you understand that family comes first. It would break my heart to see you lose that beautiful quality. I felt the familiar weight of guilt settling on my shoulders, but this time something else came with it, anger. She was doing it again, making my perfectly reasonable desire to attend my own classes sound like a moral failing. What if I moved out? The words slipped out before I could stop them. The teacup paused halfway to her lips. Moved out. Just, eventually. Got my own place, maybe with roommates. She set the cup down carefully, and for a second, her mask slipped. I saw something desperate flash across her face before the gentle smile returned. Sweetheart, do you know how expensive rent is these days? And with your work schedule being so flexible, because of family obligations, how would you qualify for a lease? Most landlords want proof of stable income. The words hit like ice water. She was right, I'd lost my job months ago, and my credit was non-existent. But the way she said it, like she was genuinely concerned, when she was the reason I couldn't keep stable employment. Plus, she continued, living with strangers can be so difficult. Different schedules, different values. Here, you're with family who love you. Why would you want to give that up? Because family who love me wouldn't trap me, I thought but didn't say. My phone buzzed with another text from Maya, by the way, rent's only $400 per month including utilities. Jess's dad is being super cool about this. $400. I could make that work with financial aid money, maybe pick up weekend shifts somewhere that wouldn't conflict with classes. It was possible. It was actually possible. I'm just thinking out loud, I told Grandma, trying to keep my voice casual. No big decisions or anything. But even as I said it, I was mentally calculating how much I could pack into my car, and whether I could move everything in one trip. Grandma's smile widened, like she'd won something. She had no idea the war had just begun. Friday morning, I woke up to what sounded like a construction site in the kitchen. I stumbled downstairs to find all 3 of Aunt Kelly's kids plus Derek's 2, with Grandma nowhere in sight. 5 kids before 8 a.m. was a new record, even for our house. Where's Grandma? I asked Marcus, who was attempting to make cereal while Tyler crawled around his feet. She left a note, Lily said, pointing to the counter. She had an emergency. I grabbed the piece of paper, written in Grandma's perfect cursive, Sam honey, Kelly had to take her mother-in-law to the hospital, nothing serious, and Derek got called in early. Back by lunch. You're such a lifesaver. XOXO. My phone showed 3 missed calls, all from numbers I didn't recognize, and 2 voicemails from my academic advisor. My stomach dropped as I listened to the first one. Ms. Chen, this is Janet Morrison from Academic Services. You've missed the deadline for next semester's class registration, and your current GPA puts you on academic probation. Please call immediately to discuss your options before your enrollment status changes. The second voicemail was shorter. Ms. Chen, following up on my earlier call. If we don't hear from you by 5 p.m. today, your enrollment will be automatically suspended pending review. My hands were shaking as I lowered the phone. Academic probation. Enrollment suspension. The words felt like a death sentence. Uncle Tommy, Emma put syrup in her hair, Sophie announced helpfully. I looked over to see Emma, indeed, pouring maple syrup directly onto her head like it was shampoo. The sticky mess was already dripping onto the floor, and Tyler was crawling straight toward the puddle. No, 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 I muttered, scooping up Tyler while trying to grab the syrup bottle from Emma. Sophie, can you get me some paper towels? But Sophie was 4 and had already wandered off to build something elaborate with kitchen utensils. Marcus and Lily were fighting over the last clean bowl, their voices getting louder by the second. This was my life. This was actually my life, and it was destroying my future piece by piece. I called the academic advisor back while attempting to clean syrup out of Emma's hair with one hand. Ms. Morrison. This is Sam Chen. I got your voicemails, Anne. Ms. Chen, thank goodness. We need to discuss your academic standing immediately. Can you come in today? I'm watching my cousins right now. Could we possibly do this over the phone? There was a pause. Ms. Chen, you've used family obligations as an excuse for missed deadlines 4 times this semester. I'm trying to help you here, but I need to see you in person to verify your commitment to completing your degree. The judgment in her voice was crystal clear. In her mind, I was just another flaky student making excuses. She had no idea I was trapped in an unpaid childcare nightmare that was getting worse every week. What time works for you? I asked, watching Tyler try to eat a crayon. I have an opening at 2 p.m. That's my final offer. I hung up and immediately called Maya. Emergency. I need that room. Today if possible. Whoa, what happened? I'm about to get kicked out of school. I'm watching 5 kids whose parents have apparently vanished into thin air, and my grandmother is systematically destroying my life while pretending to save it. Maya was quiet for a moment. Okay. Change of plans. Can you meet us at 1 p.m. instead of tomorrow morning? Jess is home today, and her dad could swing by with the lease. I looked around the chaos of the kitchen. Syrup everywhere, kids arguing, my future crumbling while I played house with someone else's responsibilities. I'll be there, I said, surprising myself with how decisive I sounded. What about the kids? I watched Emma try to pet Mr. Bubbles through the glass of his tank, her hair still sticky with syrup, while the older kids continued their volume competition over breakfast. I'm bringing them with me. The drive to Maya's apartment was like something out of a stress-induced fever dream. I'd loaded all 5 kids into Grandma's minivan without permission, but desperation had officially overridden my guilt about borrowing her car. Tyler was screaming in his car seat because I'd had to wake him from his nap, Emma kept asking why her hair felt crunchy, and Marcus had somehow smuggled a permanent marker into the van and was decorating the back of Lily's seat. Uncle Tommy, are we going on an adventure? Sophie asked from the middle row, her voice bright with excitement that made my chest ache with guilt. Something like that, sweetheart, I said, checking the GPS. 12 more minutes to Maya's place, then somehow I had to make it to campus by 2 p.m. for the meeting that would determine whether I even had a future in college. My phone rang through the car speakers, Grandma's ringtone. My stomach dropped as I glanced at the caller ID. Don't answer it, Maya had texted me earlier. You don't owe her a real-time GPS tracker of your location. But the ringing felt like an accusation, and by the 4th call in 10 minutes, even the kids were getting anxious. Why is great-grandma calling so much? Lily asked, her voice small. She's probably just wondering where we went, I said, which was technically true but felt like a massive understatement. When we pulled up to Maya's apartment complex, I could see her and another girl, presumably Jess, waiting by the entrance. Maya's expression shifted from excited to concerned the moment she saw the chaos emerging from the minivan. Holy shit, Sam, she said, then immediately looked mortified. Sorry, kids. I meant holy ship. Ship. Emma yelled gleefully, clapping her hands and spreading more syrup residue around. Tyler had finally stopped crying but was now trying to eat the strap of his car seat. Marcus and Lily were arguing about whether the apartment building looked like a castle or a prison, and Sophie was asking approximately 15 questions per minute about everything she could see. Maya, this is insane, I know, but... No, it's fine, Jess interrupted, stepping forward with a warm smile. I'm Jess, and I'm guessing you're Sam. Maya told me about your situation. She crouched down to Sophie's level. Hey there, I like your shoes. Are those flowers? Within minutes, Jess had somehow corralled all 5 kids into being genuinely excited about seeing the apartment. She gave them a special tour that involved them checking every closet for apartment monsters, while Maya and I talked logistics in hushed voices. The room's perfect, Maya said, opening the door to a small but bright space with 2 windows. It's furnished, so you just need to bring clothes and personal stuff. I could picture it immediately, my textbooks on the desk, my clothes in a closet, silence when I needed to study. The fantasy was so appealing it actually hurt. There's one problem, I said, watching Tyler try to climb into a cardboard box that Jess had apparently designated as his special fort. Even if I can swing the rent, I have no idea how to tell my grandma I'm leaving. She's going to make me feel like I'm abandoning the family. Because she's been conditioning you to feel that way, Maya said bluntly. Sam, normal grandparents don't turn their grandchildren into unpaid employees. My phone started ringing again, Grandma's 4th call in 20 minutes. This time, I answered. Sam. Where are you? I came home and the house is empty and the van is gone, Anne. I'm showing the kids an apartment, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The silence on the other end was deafening. What kind of apartment? And just like that, the war I'd been avoiding was about to begin. A place I'm thinking about renting, I said, watching Tyler discover that the cardboard box made interesting noises when he hit it. Another long silence. When Grandma spoke again, her voice had that dangerously calm quality that meant a storm was coming. Samuel, bring those children home. Right now. The use of my full name sent a chill down my spine. She hadn't called me Samuel since I was 12 and had broken her favorite vase playing indoor baseball. Grandma, I can explain. There is nothing to explain. You took my vehicle without permission, you removed 5 children from a safe environment without notifying their parents, and you're apparently touring apartments when you should be. Should be what? The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. Should be failing out of college. Should be watching everyone else's kids while my own life falls apart. I could hear her sharp intake of breath through the phone. Maya was watching me with wide eyes, while Jess continued entertaining the kids like nothing was happening. Lower your voice, Grandma hissed. You're upsetting the children. I looked around. The kids were completely absorbed in their cardboard box fort construction project and hadn't even noticed my outburst. But that was classic Grandma, making me feel guilty for things that weren't even true. They're fine, I said. What's not fine is that I'm about to get kicked out of school because I can't attend classes or do my homework because I'm constantly. Samuel Edward Chen, you will bring those children home immediately, or I will call the police and report my vehicle stolen. My blood turned to ice. She wouldn't. Would she? You gave me permission to use your car for emergencies, I said weakly. Taking 5 young children on some ridiculous apartment hunting expedition is not an emergency. Maya was making frantic hand gestures, pointing at her phone. She'd been texting someone, probably her dad, about the lease. Grandma, can we please just talk about this when I get back? I promise I'm not doing anything dangerous. Maya and Jess are responsible people, and I don't care who they are. I care that you've decided to act like a rebellious teenager instead of the mature young woman I raised you to be. There it was again. The constant implication that wanting anything for myself was immature and selfish. I'll be home in an hour, I said, hating how defeated I sounded. 30 minutes. The line went dead. Well, Maya said carefully, that sounded fun. I slumped against the wall, feeling like I just lost a battle I didn't even know I was fighting. She threatened to call the police. Said I stole her car. Jesus. For taking kids on an apartment tour. It's not about the car or the kids, I said, finally understanding what was really happening. It's about control. She knows that if I get my own place, she loses her free babysitter. Jess appeared with all 5 kids trailing behind her like ducklings. So, what's the verdict? Are we going to have a new roommate? I looked at the kids, sticky, chaotic, sweet kids who weren't my responsibility but had somehow become my whole world. Then I looked at Maya and Jess, who were offering me a chance at the normal college experience I'd been dreaming about. I need to go back, I said quietly. But this isn't over. Maya nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. The room will be here when you're ready. As I loaded the kids back into the van, Sophie tugged on my shirt. Uncle Tommy, why did Great-Grandma sound so mad on the phone? I buckled her into her car seat, my hands shaking slightly as the reality of what I was about to face hit me. Sometimes grown-ups disagree about things, sweetheart, I said, which was probably the understatement of the century. Because I had a feeling that when I got home, disagreement was going to be the least of my problems. The drive back to Grandma's house felt like driving toward my own execution. Every red light gave me more time to imagine the lecture waiting for me, and by the time I pulled into the driveway, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn off the engine. Grandma was standing in the doorway before I'd even opened the van door, her arms crossed and her face set in an expression I'd only seen a few times in my life, usually when my cousins had done something truly spectacular like flooding the bathroom or breaking something expensive. Kids, let's get you inside, she said, her voice artificially sweet as she helped them out of the van. But her eyes stayed locked on me the entire time, promising a conversation I definitely didn't want to have. The kids, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air, chattered excitedly about their adventure, while Grandma ushered them into the living room with snacks and cartoons. I stood in the kitchen, still holding my keys, wondering if I could somehow delay this confrontation until I'd figured out what to say. Samuel. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. Kitchen. Now. I'd never heard that tone from her before, not disappointed, not even angry, but something colder. More final. She closed the kitchen door behind her and turned to face me, her perfectly composed grandmother mask completely gone. What exactly did you think you were doing today? I told you, I was looking at an apartment. You were making a fool of yourself and embarrassing this family. Her voice was deadly quiet. Do you have any idea what would have happened if someone had seen you dragging 5 children around to look at some college party house? What people would think about how this family operates? The accusation hit me like a slap. It's not a party house. Maya and Jess are honor students, and I don't care if they're Rhodes Scholars. You had no business taking those children anywhere without their parents' explicit permission. She stepped closer, and I could see something desperate flickering behind her anger. Derek called me in a panic when he went to pick up Sophie and Tyler and found an empty house. My stomach dropped. Is he mad? He's confused, Sam. He asked me if you were having some kind of breakdown. Her voice softened just enough to feel like manipulation. I told him you've been under a lot of stress with school, but that we'd figure it out as a family. The word breakdown stung more than it should have. Because maybe I was. Maybe finally wanting to attend my own classes and have my own life constituted a mental health crisis in Grandma's world. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm trying to save my academic career before it's too late. By running away. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Sweetheart, you can't run from responsibility. I thought I'd raised you better than that. This isn't my responsibility. The words exploded out of me louder than I'd intended. These aren't my kids, this isn't my life, and I never agreed to give up everything I wanted to become your permanent babysitter. The silence that followed was deafening. Through the closed door, I could hear Tyler giggling at something on TV, completely unaware that my entire future was being decided in the next room. So that's what you think this is? Grandma's voice was barely above a whisper. You think I've been using you? The hurt in her voice made my chest ache with guilt, but I forced myself to stay strong. Haven't you? She stared at me for a long moment, and I watched her face cycle through emotions I couldn't quite read. Then she walked to the kitchen table and sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of her 73 years. Come here, Samuel. We need to have a very different conversation. I sat down across from Grandma at the kitchen table, my heart hammering against my ribs. She was quiet for so long that I started to wonder if she'd forgotten I was there, her fingers tracing patterns on the worn wooden surface like she was reading some invisible map. When your grandfather died, she finally said, her voice softer than I'd heard it all day, I thought my life was over. 47 years of marriage, and suddenly I was just alone. In this big house, with nothing but memories and silence. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. This wasn't what I'd expected. I'd braced myself for another guilt trip, another lecture about family responsibility, not whatever this was. Then your parents started having problems, she continued, still not looking at me. And you came to stay those weekends, remember? You were so angry about the fighting, so lost. But when you were here, helping me in the garden, making cookies, watching those silly movies, I felt useful again. Like I had a purpose. The guilt was already starting to creep in, right on schedule. Grandma. Let me finish. Her voice was still gentle, but there was steel underneath it. When you moved in 6 months ago, I was so happy. Not just because you needed help, but because I needed you. I needed to feel like I mattered to someone. She finally looked up at me, and I was startled to see tears in her eyes. But something about them didn't feel right. Too perfectly timed, too strategically placed. So yes, she said, her voice breaking just slightly. Maybe I have been asking too much of you. Maybe I got so caught up in feeling needed that I forgot you have your own dreams. Is that what you want to hear? I stared at her, feeling like I was trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Because this sounded like an apology, but it felt like another trap. I just want to be able to go to my classes, I said carefully. And not fail out of school. Of course you do. And you should. She reached across the table and patted my hand. We'll figure something else out for the children. Maybe it's time for their parents to step up and handle their own responsibilities. Relief flooded through me so fast I felt dizzy. Really? Really? Her smile was warm and understanding, everything I'd hoped for. In fact, why don't you call that academic advisor right now? Tell her you're committed to your education and you've resolved the family issues that were interfering. I glanced at the clock, 1:47 p.m. I still had time to make it to campus for my 2 p.m. appointment. I should probably head over there in person. Absolutely. Take my car. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you for speaking up, Sam. It takes courage to advocate for yourself. I felt like I was floating as I gathered my things and headed for the door. This was it, I was finally going to get my life back on track. I could keep living with Grandma, but on better terms. I could attend classes, rebuild my GPA, transfer to engineering school like I'd planned. It wasn't until I was halfway to campus that my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Mom called, said you had some kind of episode today and she's worried about your mental state. Should I be concerned? Also, can you watch SNT tomorrow morning? Sarah's sister bailed last minute. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as the reality hit me. Grandma hadn't given up anything. She'd just bought herself time to rewrite the narrative. By tomorrow, the family would be convinced I was having some kind of breakdown. My episode would become evidence that I couldn't handle stress, that I needed the stability of staying home and helping with family responsibilities. And everyone would rally around poor Grandma Janet, who was just trying to help her troubled granddaughter through a difficult time. I was about to walk into that academic advisor meeting thinking I'd won, when the war had just shifted to an entirely different battlefield. My phone buzzed again, this time a group text that included Derek, Aunt Kelly, and 3 other family members I barely talked to, family meeting Sunday at 3 p.m. We need to discuss Sam's situation and make sure she gets the support she needs. The trap was already closing, and I'd helped her build it by trusting her fake surrender. The academic advisor meeting was a disaster wrapped in false hope. Dr. Morrison sat across from me in her cramped office, surrounded by towers of student files that looked like they might topple over at any moment. She'd listened to my carefully rehearsed explanation about resolving family conflicts with the kind of polite skepticism that made my skin crawl. MS. Chen, I appreciate you coming in, but your academic record speaks for itself. She pulled out a printout that looked like a medical chart tracking a terminal illness. Your GPA has dropped from 3.4 to 2.1 in 1 semester. You've missed 18 classes, failed to submit 6 major assignments, and requested exam accommodations 4 times. Each word felt like a nail in a coffin I'd built for myself. I know it looks bad, but the family situation is genuinely resolved now. My grandmother and I worked everything out. That's wonderful to hear. Her smile was the kind medical professionals use when delivering bad news. However, the college has policies in place to protect both students and our academic standards. You'll need to demonstrate sustained improvement before we can lift the probation status. What does that mean exactly? You'll be limited to part-time enrollment next semester, no more than 6 credits. You'll meet with me bi-weekly to monitor your progress. And if your GPA doesn't improve to at least 2.5 by the end of the spring term, your enrollment will be suspended. 6 credits. That was 2 classes. At this rate, it would take me 6 years to finish a 2-year degree, assuming I didn't fail anything else. Is there any way to appeal this decision? You can submit a written appeal to the Academic Review Board, but you'd need documentation of the extenuating circumstances that led to your academic difficulties. She leaned forward slightly. Medical records, legal documents, that sort of thing. My mind raced. What kind of documentation proved that your grandmother had systematically destroyed your academic career through emotional manipulation and unpaid childcare? There wasn't exactly a diagnosis for that. I understand this isn't what you wanted to hear, Dr. Morrison continued, but sometimes a slower pace is exactly what struggling students need to get back on track. I walked out of her office feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach, then kicked while I was down for good measure. Part-time enrollment meant I'd lose most of my financial aid. It meant watching my friends graduate while I crawled through classes at a snail's pace. It meant years more of being trapped in this nightmare I couldn't seem to escape. My phone rang as I sat in my car in the campus parking lot, trying not to cry. Maya's name flashed on the screen. How did it go? She asked immediately. Academic probation. Part-time enrollment only. My college career is basically over. Shit, Sam. I'm so sorry. I could hear her moving around, probably pacing. But listen, this doesn't change anything about the room. Part-time students still need somewhere to live, right? Before I could answer, my phone started buzzing with another call. Aunt Kelly. I have to go, I told Maya. Family drama incoming. I switched to Kelly's call, bracing myself for whatever fresh hell was about to unfold. Sam, honey, your grandmother called me and I am so worried about you. Kelly's voice had that overly concerned tone that meant she'd already decided I was having some kind of breakdown. She said you took 5 children on some kind of road trip today without telling anyone where you were going. It wasn't a road trip. I looked at an apartment for 30 minutes. An apartment? But sweetheart, why would you want to move out of your grandmother's beautiful house? You have everything you need there. Everything except my own life, I thought but didn't say. I just thought it might be good to have some independence. Independence is wonderful, but there's a difference between independence and isolation. Kelly's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Your grandmother mentioned you've been under a lot of stress lately. Maybe what you need isn't more pressure, but more support. I could see exactly where this was going. By Sunday's family meeting, they'd have transformed my apartment hunting into evidence of poor decision-making caused by stress and mental instability. Moving out would become another symptom of my inability to cope, rather than a solution to the problem that was destroying my life. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. Mom gave me your friend Maya's number. Called to check on you, but she says some interesting things about our family dynamics. Think we need to talk before Sunday. My blood turned to ice. Grandma had gotten Maya's number and given it to Derek. Why would she do that unless she was building a case against me, collecting evidence that my friends were filling my head with dangerous ideas about leaving the family. Another text, this one from Grandma. Hope your meeting went well, sweetheart. Made your favorite cookies. Can't wait to celebrate getting everything back on track. Red heart. The heart emoji felt like a threat. I sat in the parking lot, watching other students walk to classes I couldn't attend, carrying textbooks for subjects I couldn't study, living the college experience that was slipping further away from me every day. For the first time, I wondered if Grandma was right. Maybe I really was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe wanting my own life was actually a symptom of being unable to handle my real responsibilities. Maybe I really was just a selfish teenager who needed to grow up and accept that some dreams were too expensive to pursue. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Sam. This is Sarah, Derek's wife. We need to talk. Tonight. The coffee shop Sarah suggested was one of those aggressively cheerful places with inspirational quotes painted on brick walls and baristas who looked like they'd never had a bad day in their lives. I spotted her immediately. She was the only person there who looked as exhausted as I felt, hunched over a laptop with 2 empty coffee cups already forming a defensive wall around her workspace. Thanks for meeting me, she said as I slid into the chair across from her. I wasn't sure you'd come. Honestly, I almost didn't. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, grateful for something to hold on to. Your text made it sound pretty urgent. Sarah closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair, studying my face with a kind of intensity that made me squirm. Derek told me about the family meeting on Sunday. He also told me what your grandmother said about your episode today. The air quotes around episode gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, someone in this family wasn't completely buying Grandma's narrative. It wasn't an episode, I said quietly. I just looked at an apartment. With 5 kids in tow. Sarah's voice wasn't judgmental, just tired. Sam, can I ask you something? And I want you to be completely honest with me. I nodded, though every instinct I had was screaming at me to be careful. Family loyalty ran deep, and for all I knew, this was just another way for Grandma to gather intelligence on my state of mind. How many hours a week would you say you spent watching other people's children? The question caught me off guard. I'd never actually calculated it before, maybe because I was afraid of what the answer would be. I don't know. It varies. Ballpark estimate. I thought about the past few weeks, the early morning drop-offs, the afternoon emergencies, the weekend favors that stretched into entire days. Maybe 30 hours. 40 on bad weeks. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. 40 hours. That's a full-time job, Sam. It's just family helping family. No, it's free labor. Her voice was sharp now, with an edge I hadn't expected. And I should know, because I've been doing the same thing for years. I stared at her. What do you mean? Sarah glanced around the coffee shop, then leaned forward and lowered her voice. Your grandmother has been running the same game on different family members for the past 5 years. When Derek's older sister lived in town, she was the designated babysitter until she finally moved across the country. When cousin Michelle was between jobs, suddenly every family gathering became a multi-day affair where Michelle was expected to handle all the kids while the adults socialized. My mouth went dry. I don't understand. She finds whoever in the family is most vulnerable, usually young women who need housing or financial help, and slowly transforms them into unpaid childcare. It starts small, just a favor here and there, then ramps up until their entire life revolves around everyone else's children. The words hit me like a physical blow. All this time, I thought I was somehow uniquely weak for not being able to handle the pressure. I thought the problem was me. Why didn't anyone tell me? Sarah's laugh was bitter. Because she's gotten really good at making it look like organic family support. And because most of us only figured out the pattern after we'd escaped it ourselves. Escaped? Derek and I moved Sophie and Tyler to full-time daycare 6 months ago. Cost us an extra $400 a month, but it was worth it to not be part of the machine anymore. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text thread. Look at this. I read the messages, my stomach sinking with each one. Grandma had been systematically reaching out to different family members over the past week, planting seeds about my concerning behavior and inability to cope with stress. She told Derek I was having panic attacks. She told Aunt Kelly I was becoming isolated and refusing to engage with family. She'd even suggested to cousin Rachel that I might be developing some kind of personality disorder. She's been building a case against you, Sarah said softly. So that when you finally try to leave, everyone will think it's because you're having a breakdown, not because you're trying to save your own life. I felt like I might throw up. The family meeting on Sunday is going to be an intervention. Derek let slip that your grandmother asked him to research local therapists who specialize in young adult adjustment disorders. Sarah reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Sam, if you don't get out before that meeting happens, you're going to be trapped for years. I stared at Sarah, feeling like the ground had just opened up beneath me. Years? Think about it, she said, her voice urgent but quiet. Once you're labeled as having mental health issues that affect your judgment, who's going to believe you when you say the family situation is toxic? Every attempt to set boundaries becomes more evidence that you can't handle reality. My hands were shaking now. But surely Derek knows this is crazy. He seemed concerned about how much I was babysitting. Derek feels guilty, but he's also been getting pressure from your grandmother about family loyalty and supporting each other through difficult times. Sarah pulled up another text. She sent this to him yesterday. I read the message, my heart sinking, I'm so worried about Sam. She's been talking about abandoning the family, and today she put 5 children at risk with her erratic behavior. I think the stress of school has become too much for her. Maybe we should look into some professional help before she does something really dangerous. Professional help, I whispered. Therapy, medication, maybe even a voluntary psychiatric hold if she can convince people you're a danger to yourself or the children. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. I've seen her do this before, Sam. She's very good at making concerned family members believe they're helping when they're actually enabling her control. I thought about all the times Grandma had subtly questioned my decision-making, my stress levels, my ability to handle adult responsibilities. She'd been laying groundwork for months. What do I do? You leave. Tonight. Before Sunday's meeting, before she has a chance to get the whole family convinced you're unstable. But I don't have anywhere to go. Maya's room isn't available until... Maya called me back after Derek contacted her, Sarah interrupted. She's moving her timeline up. The room is yours immediately if you want it, and Derek's wife, that's me, is willing to help with the deposit. I stared at her. Why would you do that? Because 5 years ago, I was the family babysitter. Your grandmother convinced everyone that I was struggling with purpose after college and that caring for children would help me mature. Sarah's jaw tightened. I lost 2 job opportunities and ended up in therapy for anxiety and depression before I figured out what was really happening. I had no idea. That's the point. She isolates each victim so they think they're the only one struggling. Sarah glanced at her phone. Derek knows where I am right now. If I don't text him in the next 10 minutes that everything's normal, he's going to call your grandmother. The implication was clear, I had to make a decision right now. What about the kids? If I just disappear, who's going to watch them? Their parents. Like every other family in America manages to do. Sarah's voice was firm. Sam, you're not responsible for solving everyone else's childcare problems. You never were. My phone buzzed with a text from Grandma, movie night tonight. Made popcorn and hot chocolate. Family time is so important when we're working through challenges together. Red heart, The heart emoji felt like a countdown timer. She knows, I said, showing Sarah the text. She knows I talked to someone today. Sarah nodded grimly. She's trying to reel you back in before you can think too clearly about your options. She stood up, gathering her things. I'm going home to pack some boxes and get Derek's truck. Maya's expecting you at 8 p.m. Sarah, what if I'm making a mistake? She paused, looking at me with something that might have been pity. Sam, what if you're not? I stood in my childhood bedroom at 7:30 p.m., looking at the pathetic pile of belongings I'd managed to stuff into 2 garbage bags. Everything I owned in the world fit into the trunk of Maya's car, with room to spare. 20 years of life, reduced to some clothes, textbooks, and a few photos I couldn't bear to leave behind. My hands were shaking as I wrote the letter I'd been composing in my head for hours. Grandma. I love you, but I can't live like this anymore. I'm not having a breakdown, I'm finally thinking clearly for the first time in months. I need to finish school and build my own life. That's not selfish or ungrateful. That's normal. I won't be at Sunday's meeting because there's nothing wrong with me that requires an intervention. What requires intervention is a family system that treats young women like free labor and then questions their sanity when they try to escape. I'll call you when I'm ready to have a real conversation about boundaries. Love. Sam. I could hear her downstairs, humming while she made hot chocolate and arranged throw pillows for our family movie night. The sound that used to comfort me now made my skin crawl. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya, trucks loaded, we're outside. You ready? I grabbed my bags and crept toward the stairs, my heart hammering so hard I was sure it would give me away. The living room lights were on, casting that warm glow that had always meant safety and home. For a second, I almost turned back. Then I heard Grandma on the phone in the kitchen. Yes, Dr. Patterson, I think Thursday would work perfectly. She's been under tremendous stress, and frankly, I'm worried about her decision-making capabilities. Dr. Patterson. The therapist Derek had mentioned. I bolted. Maya and Sarah were waiting by Derek's truck, engines running like a getaway car. Go, 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 Sarah whispered as I threw my bags in the back, and we peeled out of the driveway like we were escaping a crime scene. Which, in a way, we were. 3 hours later, I was sitting in my new room, surrounded by boxes and the most beautiful silence I'd ever heard. No children screaming, no guilt trips, no one questioning my dreams or my sanity. Maya knocked on my doorframe. How you feeling? Terrified, I said honestly. And free. Is it possible to feel both at the same time? Pretty sure that's what growing up actually feels like. My phone had been buzzing non-stop, 17 missed calls from Grandma, 6 from various family members, and 1 very long voicemail I wasn't ready to listen to yet. But there was also a text from Dr. Martinez, Ms. Chen, heard from academic services that you're working through some challenges. Spring registration is still open if you want to discuss a path forward. And another from Derek, asterisk, Sarah told me everything. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. Sophie and Tyler will be fine, they're kids, not your responsibility. Proud of you for getting out. Asterisk. I curled up in my new bed, in my own space, with my textbooks within reach and my future, uncertain but mine again, stretching out ahead of me. For the first time in 8 months, when I closed my eyes, I could actually picture myself graduating. Sunday came and went. I didn't go to the family meeting. Monday morning, I enrolled in 2 classes for spring semester and got a part-time job at the campus library. I was 19 years old, and I was finally free to find out who I was supposed to become. Grandma still calls sometimes. I answer when I'm strong enough, and we're slowly learning how to love each other without me disappearing in the process. But that's a different story.